Hey, today's topic is a game I'm sure a lot of you out there are familiar with, but it's one I was never too familiar with myself. Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. Now, as always, start with the history. Um, I guess just before Skyrim, what's my history with like the series? So, ever since I guess I was like put onto the series around the 360. That was, Oblivion came out, and that was when I was like, okay, this is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I didn't know anything about the previous games, but I just knew Oblivion was a thing. And I didn't play a lot of it myself. I specifically remember going to my friend's house and playing Oblivion on his PS3. And it was fun. That's one Bethesda games are those games that are just fun to mess around with a friend. It was like, oh, yo, go kill that guard. So I'd do that, and, we'd goof around for a few hours while I was over there, and then I'd come back home, and I'd go play Fallout. I was into Bethesda games at the time, but I was more into Fallout. And that's just how I was for a very long time. I guess it's still kind of in me, like I still really like Fallout. But the past couple years, I've been feeling this urge to, like, mess around more with the Elder Scrolls. Because I've played so much of Fallout 3, New Vegas, 4. I just wanted more, and the Elder Scrolls has been like my blind spot of Bethesda games for forever. So these past couple years, I've been feeling this calling to just check them out. We'll get to Skyrim in a minute, but Oblivion I didn't really play much of, but more recently, the earlier games, Morrowind and even Daggerfall, I've checked those out. I've played maybe a dozen hours of each. I really liked them, but for whatever reason, I never stuck with them. Like, I made one video on Daggerfall kind of talking about its procedural generation stuff. And I played some Morrowind before that. I had some footage. I really like a lot of what those earlier games do. But for whatever reason, the mood I was in at the time, maybe, I don't know, I just stopped playing Daggerfall, Morrowind. I've tried a couple times over the years to try to get into both of those, but I just haven't got super into them. Played a little bit, dozen hours or so, but... So despite playing some amount of the Elder Scrolls 2 and 3, and now Skyrim, I haven't played a lot of Oblivion, and I don't know why that is. Maybe that's a topic for a video if I eventually do play Oblivion. Because spoilers, I consider myself an Elder Scrolls fan now, so I feel like I have to go back and try it someday. But Skyrim. What is my history with Skyrim exclusively? Now, despite all that thing about me not being into Elder Scrolls, I did play Skyrim at release. Because back on the 360, I was super diehard Bethesda fan. Like, I've mentioned this before, I think, but there was a period in my life where I just played Rock Band and Fallout New Vegas, and I just went between those so much. And, of course, I'd play Fallout 3, and the Fallout 3 and New Vegas were such a core part of my, I don't want to say early gaming journey, but like my teenage gaming journey. And Skyrim was a big deal. And even though I wasn't an Elder Scrolls fan, I felt like I had to check it out. Because it was like this huge step from, like, was Fallout 3 the last game Bethesda made before Skyrim? I think it was, because Oblivion was Oblivion before Fallout 3? I genuinely don't know. I think I always assumed Oblivion was first. I'm going to assume it was. I might be wrong. I guess it doesn't matter either way. But either way, from Oblivion to Skyrim, or Fallout 3 to Skyrim, that's a huge jump. And I just had to check it out at the time. It's one of those things you can't ignore. So I played it at release window, maybe within a year or two. Maybe the DLC was out at the time, I'm not sure. I'd actually checked my my old what do they call it? Like gamer a gamer score profile, whatever, for Xbox. I wanted to see the achievements I got for playing Skyrim at the time. And I think I had played more than I expected. I had done some amount of the main quest. I got further than I thought. And I guess I was surprised because I didn't remember a lot from the game. Now, I knew the broad strokes, like, you go to High Hrothgar, you fight the dragon in front of Whiterun, you get Lydia. I knew a lot of the early game stuff, like a lot of the early game story stuff. And I guess, I played it at release, but I tried to get into it on PC with mods, but that never took off. I guess every time I would try to play Skyrim, I'd progress in the story to a certain point. And once I reached a certain part in the story, I would just go goof off and not even care about the story. Like, what is there to do? There's just dungeons. Like, that's a game you can just... Like, I remember watched a presentation of, like, when Skyrim was first showed off, gameplay-wise. And I think this game was the game where Todd was like, you see that mountain in the distance? You can go to that. And it was kind of this thing where it's like, as soon as you start the game, and you get out of the Helgen, you can go do literally whatever you want. And I would usually progress a little bit further than that. Like, I wouldn't immediately go and do everything. I would wait till, you get your dragon shouts so you can get the word walls. Then I'd go and just kind of go be my own person. Like, Alduin's destroying the lands. He's going to do whatever he's doing. I don't care. I'm going to go raid that dungeon and get a elven sword. So yeah, that was about my experience of Skyrim throughout the years. I'd play maybe 10 to 20 hours. Yeah, that's probably about right. 10 to 20 hours of most playthroughs, maybe 30. And then I'd just get bored and dip off. But I'm still kind of a Bethesda fan. Like, I'm still into Fallout. And I'd still watch YouTube video essays or read comment threads about Skyrim. And I think I definitely bought into the negative sentiment around the game. Like, for so long, I feel like at its release, it was like, holy shit, this game's amazing. And then after a little bit, it'd be like, hold on a second. They cut out a lot from Oblivion. And Oblivion cut out a lot from Morrowind. And Morrowind cut out from Daggerfall. And it's like this whole, like... The Elder Scrolls series has been getting dumbed down since the second, maybe even first game. There's just kind of this like, community sentiment of, like, Skyrim is the culmination of the Elder Scrolls series being dumbed down. And, what's the famous phrase, wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle? I really, really bought into that. And I guess even after playing recently, I still have that, like, in the back of my mind. Like, I kind of think the whole gaming community has kind of, like, indoctrinated themselves into thinking that Skyrim is just this shallow game with nothing to it. Or even just beyond that it's bad. I don't know, I always bought into that. And recently, though, I've kind of felt myself, felt the call to play Skyrim for whatever reason. I've always had that wide as an ocean, shallow as a puddle. I've always had that in the back of my mind, but I still want to play it. So, now I got this YouTube channel, so it's like, okay. Yeah, I've been wanting to play for a long time, but I've always, kind of fallen off. I'm gonna give it a go. Gonna play it, I'm gonna stick with it, make a video or two on it. That's my excuse to finally get into this game. It's been like such a... Because I said a lot of people were negative on it, but this game really was beloved. Like, I think this game had something to it that really hooked people, but then there were other people who, like, couldn't get past this, like... I don't even know how to describe it. It's like people get this mental image of what Skyrim is in their head, and then they either hate or love the game based on that. And not a lot of people really think about the game as, like, a game. It's like this nebulous concept or whatever. I don't know. So, with all that being said, I've been playing Skyrim a lot recently. I am... How far in am I? I think I'm like 75 hours in. Beat the main story. Beat Dawnguard. And I just started Dragonborn today. And what guilds have I done? I've done the Thieves Guild and the Companions. I still have to do the Dark Brotherhood and College of Winterhold. And of course there's a billion side quests and I guess that's just a billion side quests and dungeons to raid and word walls to find, spells to find. I still have a lot more to do in the game. I'm 70 hours in, 75 hours in, and I still got a ton more to do. But, you know, I figured might as well get my thoughts out there now while I'm still interested in the game and while I've still got all this stuff fresh in my mind. I wanted to play this mostly vanilla because I've never really gotten into Skyrim, so I wanted to just get a baseline for like, okay, this is Skyrim, and then later down the line I'm like, okay, I don't like the magic, maybe I'll get some mods to fix that, or get some like combat animation mods to kind of change how it feels. But I just wanted to solely go in and feel like, okay, this is Skyrim. But I'm not wholly vanilla. I have a few quality of life mods to just kind of fix some things, tweak some stuff. I have a few bug fix mods. Not like the, I'm not using the, what is it called? Unofficial Skyrim patch. I'm not using that. I'm using a mod that gives merchants more money. And alchemy ingredients are weightless. That's stuff where it's like I could, you know, work around that. Where a merchant has 1,000 gold. I could, you know, level up my, what is it? Speech perk tree all the way up to the top. And you can give them more money, but it's just, I'd rather just, you know, install a mod, make it super easy to sell stuff, make alchemy ingredients weightless so I can gather all the ones I want. That's stuff where it's like, it just helps me. It doesn't fundamentally change what Skyrim is. It just gives me that little bit of an edge. So yeah, I'm slightly modded, but not wholly vanilla. I played a little bit of, like, exactly vanilla like I played for a little bit without the more merchant money and with alchemy ingredients weighing whatever. But once I did that, I'm like, okay, I got a baseline. I'm going to add these little things, super little things, to just kind of make it a bit more easy. So, I guess to talk about the positives of Skyrim, we'll start with the skills. Now, the skills, I broke these down into 3 categories. I'm not sure if they all fit into these perfectly, but well, I'll just say them. Combat skills, production skills, and passive skills. It feels right. I feel like that's the right amount of... I feel like most of those fit into those categories. So with combat skills, these are how you interact with enemies in the world. So with one-handed or two-handed, you know, you're hitting them with a sword or a battle axe or a great sword. With archery, you're shooting them with a bow. There's all the different magic types, like destruction, conjuration. These kind of define how you use combat in the game. So there's all types of different playstyles you could go where, like, do you want to be a mage, where you're using your fire? Do you want to focus on conjuration, where you can summon creatures to fight with you, or turn people you've already killed undead and have them fight alongside you? Or do you just want to be a guy with a sword and a shield? You know, there's a bunch of different types of ways to play the game. And I feel like the combat skills really... it gives you a lot of variety. That's all I'll say for that. Production skills. These are what I like in these types of games. Because, you know, Skyrim, it's an action-adventure game. You know, action, adventure, these all involve combat. But I like the slower moments of, okay, I just finished this dungeon, I got a bunch of materials, or I just went to a mine and got a bunch of ore. Now I'm going to go home, I'm going to go to my smelter, I'm going to smelt all that ore, and I'm going to craft this, like, perfect set of armor. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to enchant it to make it even more stronger. I really like how the moments of how you can use production skills to kind of beef up your combat prowess. And I like the moments of downtime between combat. Like, what else is there? There's smithing, enchanting, alchemy. I like that as like a preparation thing, but it's also like it's a gathering thing you do in the world. You go gather all these ingredients. For me, I know to make health potions, I need, what is it, blue mountain flowers and butterfly wings. So I'm always on the lookout for those two things. And I know if I'm walking along a road, I'll probably see some flowers. Hopefully they're blue flowers. And towards the middle of the map-ish, I'll find some butterflies, and I can capture them for their butterfly wings. If I have those two things, I can make health potions. I'm trying to think of the other crafting skills. Smithing, enchanting, alchemy. Is there anything else? I feel like there isn't. I'm just forgetting something. Whatever. Passive skills. These are things that are just like sneak, like pickpocket. I guess it's a lot of the thief skills where it's just like things that are parts of you as a character. Where if you sneak around a lot, you'll level up your sneak. And that's kind of I guess it's kind of a combat skill in a way. But also like speech or lockpicking. Just kind of things unrelated to production or combat. And I'm sure there's others that don't quite fit into those three categories. But regardless, there's a lot of different types of skills that kind of shape how you interact with the game and its world. And leveling them is really cool. You level these skills by using them. So like, if you do sneak around a lot, your sneak will go up. If you use your one-handed weapon a lot, your one-handed skill will go up and you'll do more damage with one-handed weapons. So it just kind of snowballs into you becoming super powerful in a thing as you use it. You know, as you pick more locks, you get better at lock picking. I think that's such a cool twist on the typical RPG, leveling up process of like, you hit level 3 and then you get some amount of points to spend on, okay, do I choose to get better in lockpicking or in sneaking? And in Skyrim, it's like, no, if you sneak, you're going to level up your sneak. And I think it feels really natural. Where in games, like I said earlier, where it's like you hit level 3 and you got to choose between lockpick or, I don't know, how much damage you do with a sword. Your sword skill, it's kind of abstracted in a way where it's like, oh, do I want to be better with a lockpick or with a sword? But in Skyrim, it's like, no, I'm using a sword, so I'm going to be better with it. And then, of course, you do get to, whenever you do level up, you get a perk point that you get to spend on the perk trees. Do I talk about that later? Yeah, I do. Okay. I'll save talk about perks for later, but I think perks are cool in their own way. So with the skills, I think the skills complement the moment-to-moment gameplay. And just existing in this world and doing things is engaging. The sheer fact that there's however many skills there are, I don't know exactly, wait, I might be able to do the math on this. I think there's like 5 or 6 skills per, warrior, thief, and mage. So there's 15, 18 skills, whatever, something like that. And each of those it shapes how you interact with the world. If you have a high sneak and a high pickpocket, you're going to see the world differently than someone with a low sneak and a low pickpocket. If you have a high archery and you're really spec'd into doing a lot of bow damage, you're going to come at combat encounters differently. If you have high speech, you're going to be able to access places and kind of do things you wouldn't be able to if you had lower speech. And just kind of the way you specialize your character kind of tailors how you view Skyrim as a whole. I think that's so cool. And I guess because of the skills, gameplay sessions can look so different in this game. There's so many different things to do that, you can launch the game, You get into your character, and you can do literally anything. You can gather materials for crafting. You can go out into the world and, if you want to make a bunch of health potions, you can go get butterfly wings and blue mountain flowers. Or you can get ore for crafting armor. Or you can go get soul gems for enchanting. And once you have those, maybe you stockpile a bunch. Then next session, you start crafting those things. Leveling up enchanting, that'll take you a while. Spoilers for later. That'll take you a while. So, maybe you spend a session, gathering a bunch of soul gems and a bunch of iron daggers. Then the next session, you just grind out enchanting. Enchant this iron dagger with banish, petty soul gem, there's XP. Do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And you just do that till you hit 100. You can do that for a session. Or you can go dungeon raiding, just go whack some bad guys in a dungeon. Then at the end you get your reward. Then you go to another one and do that. Or you can go questing. If you want to go do a quest, there's a billion side quests in the game. There are so many quests in the game. You could play this game for 200 hours and still not see half the quests. Or, if you don't want to do any of that, if you don't want to engage with any system, you can just explore. Not to spoil it again, but Skyrim's world is so, it's just fun to walk around in. That's something these Bethesda games always get right, is that it's just fun to be in them. Just to talk to people and just see what their lives are like. And even though they're just NPCs and you can see their, scripted paths, it's very easy to treat it as a world. So with all those, you're definitely not spoiled for choice when it comes to ways to experience Skyrim. Some people, if they don't want to interact with the crafting, if they don't want to go really hard into smithing, they don't have to. It was only last night where I was like, you know what? I'm going to get my smithing up. And then I got it from 50 to 90. And I made some Daedric armor. But before that, I had some, what was it? Some just some random armor from different sets I found. In dungeons or quests. And the Daedric stuff I made is, it's better than the stuff I found. And I've been using that armor I found for 30 hours. It must be 30, 40 hours. And that's got me through so much of the game. And eventually, I'd find stuff better. So I don't have to interact with the crafting systems if I don't want to. If I don't want to do alchemy, I can just go buy potions. Or I can make food. If I don't want to do enchanting, I can just rely on stuff I find. So there's a lot of ways to kind of shun parts of the game if you don't want to interact with it. And I think that's cool. You don't have to interact with every single part of the game. For as much shit as this game gets about not being able to really specialize, and as much shit I'll give it for that in the future, spoilers again, I think it does kind of let you not have to rely on some parts of the game. You don't have to use smithing. You don't have to enchant. You don't have to do alchemy. You don't have to pickpocket. But if you do choose to interact with those are there. And it's rewarding. It's rewarding in that way. I guess to close out this positive section, just some random stuff that people hate. That I expected to hate based off, all the videos I've watched and comments I've read. Stuff like that I thought I would hate, but I don't really mind it. Radiant quests. This is something that... Gosh, where do I start? It's such a complex thing because I don't remember if this was around the time this game came out or this was more of a Fallout 4 problem. But I remember seeing Reddit posts where people were like, I've been doing quests from Preston Garvey and he's just giving me the same quest over and over. And it's people didn't realize that these are generated quests. These aren't handwritten to, go to this guy and then there's this bad guy at the end who has a story behind him. No, it's just like a skeleton boss. Generic. It's all generic stuff. I feel like the game doesn't do a good enough job at kind of separating that. That was the thing in Fallout 4 where Preston Garvey would be like, a settlement needs your help. And once you kind of get to know the language of the game, you're like, oh, okay, that's a Radiant quest. I'm staying away from that. But if you're under the impression that those don't exist, and that these are all like written quests, I can understand being a little bit, what's the word, perturbed maybe? When it's like, oh, this isn't written. This is just a computer generated this. I can understand that perspective. But on the other hand, I think it's kind of cool. I mentioned towards the beginning how I'd played Daggerfall. I'd played some amount of Daggerfall. And I was surprised to learn that, like, the Radiant system of, like, generating a place to go, a thing to fight, a boss to fight, and then a reward at the end. I was surprised to learn that that was a thing even back in Daggerfall. Probably in Arena. That's the only game I haven't played in the series. I guess I should at some point, but maybe it's an Arena. But at least in Daggerfall, you know, this quest generation type thing has been around for a long time. And I think it's a cool system for, like, getting more mileage out of the world. So if, you know, if some hypothetical player does every quest in the game, and they've done everything, but they still want to engage with it some more, they can go to the companions and say, hey, give me a quest. Give me something to do. And then Ayla will be like, okay, go kill this tiger in this person's house. Then you go do it. Then you come back. You get 600 gold. Boom. Quest complete. There's no story to that, but it's still something to do. I guess I don't know how much effort they put into it. Like, if they didn't do the Radiant quest stuff, how many normal quests could they have done? I guess it comes down to the fact, like, is that like a meaningful type of content? Like just these nothing quests where you go out, there's no like meat to it? You know what, I'm gonna write this down for later. It's kind of tied. I'm supposed to be talking about the positives for Radiant quests, but I got distracted. I think Radiant quests are cool as like a... I think it's cool that they're in the game. If you don't want to interact with them, you don't have to. Level scaling's another thing I kind of... people really dunk on, but I didn't have much of a problem with it. I think it does a really good job of, like, scaling to you properly. Like, because there's a sense of progression. Like, when you hear level scaling, you think the whole world levels up with you, so there's no scale of, like, sense of progression, where it's like, you're level 1, enemies are level 1, everybody's level 1 in the world. Then when you get to level 20, everything's level 20 in the world. So there's, like, you don't run into any stronger or weaker enemies. Maybe, I don't know if people think like that. That's kind of what I assume when I think of level scaling. But Skyrim kind of... I mean, it obviously does do level scaling, but it'll have, like, tiers of enemies that level scale. So if you go in a dungeon that... I guess this shows it. Dungeons are scaled to the first time you enter. So if you go into... I'm trying to think of a dungeon. Can't think of many dungeon names. If you go into some dungeon at level 5, it'll scale the enemies to level 5. You know, you beat them, you kill everybody in there, you leave. If you come back when you're level 50, they're still going to be scaled to level 5. So there's still that sense of, like, you know, you can go back to an area where you were before, you can really dunk on them. You know, you can go in with your superpowered sword or your superpowered magic and just blow them away. But, you know, any new area you might enter, you know, things are scaled to that. And even out in the world where if someone's just named a bandit, you know they're a low level, but if they're like Bandit Chief or Bandit whatever, you know, they're a bit stronger. It does a good job of keeping just, you know, those plain bandits. Those still exist in the world. So it's not like everybody gets stronger. There's still those weak-ass punks that you can really dunk on. And that's cool. I think level scaling in Skyrim is relatively good in that it does that. Yeah. So neutral. We're not quite in the negatives, but we're kind of dipping out of the positives, and these are stuff I'm more conflicted on. So the writing. The writing is good sometimes. Well, I don't know if I want to say it's good sometimes. it's engaging sometimes. Because good and engaging, I feel like those are two different things. Well, writing can be good, but it's not really... It doesn't really get you invested. There are some quests in the game that get you invested. Like, the main story has its parts where it got me invested. But then there are some parts where I'm like, I don't care about this. Like, I don't care about the blades. I don't care. When Alduin comes in, like, oh, okay, I kind of care about Alduin. But then Paarthurnax, he's a cool character. I like seeing what's going on with him. He's got a cool story behind him and how his whole history with Alduin and Dragon Kyne so many years ago. That's cool. So it's hard to say if, some parts of the main story are written good, some parts aren't. Some parts engaged me more than others. Like, the Thieves Guild was fun. Companions was okay in parts. It's just kind of a mixed bag, I guess. I don't know if that's because of me and my preferences for stories or just the objective writing itself. But either way, kind of neutral in the writing in the game. Also neutral in the environments. Now, Skyrim is a game... I mean, Skyrim is the land of this game. Skyrim is... This is Skyrim. And walking around Skyrim, it's a cool environment. I can't deny that. The mountains in this game are beautiful. And the plains in front of... What is it, Whiterun? Those plains are beautiful, when you're at midday and the sun's shining down, grass is green. It looks beautiful. But it just gets kind of boring at some point. And I don't know what it is. Is it the environment, is it these Nordic mountains that just get so boring to look at? It might be the graphical style, like is the art style boring in this game? It's cool at some point, but it just kind of wears on you. 70 hours in, if I played for 70 more hours, gosh, it'd be super boring to look at, but it's weird because it gets boring at points, but then, a switch kind of flips in my brain. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. You walk into a cave you weren't expecting, and you're like, holy shit, it's so big in here, and the moonlight's coming through. It just strikes you in such a powerful way. And Skyrim has its moments like that, but when you're just walking around the open world, it feels kind of bland at times. Leveling in Skyrim can be kind of annoying. Now, I did just praise the skills earlier, but leveling them is another story. Some of them you just do... Well, all of them you just do by using the skill. One-handed, you level up by using one-handed weapons. Lockpicking, you level up lockpicking by unlocking doors. They're all self-explanatory like that. But some of those processes really suck. Like enchanting. Leveling up enchanting is that's a useful skill to get to 100. Because at level 100, you get to enchant items with 2 effects. So you can have, I don't know, it'll do fire damage when you hit someone with a weapon, and it'll heal you. Those are just having the ability to put 2 effects on one weapon or armor, that's powerful. So you need to get to 100 to do that. But leveling up enchanting is the worst. And it's weird because... So smithing and alchemy, to level up those... You get more XP in the skill, depending on the value of the item. So, if you craft an iron dagger that's worth 10 gold, that's worth so much less than a Daedric dagger, or a Daedric, warhammer. It's worth 1,500 gold. The 1,500 gold Daedric warhammer compared to the 10 gold iron dagger, you get so much more XP from that. Same with alchemy. There's this one alchemy potion you can craft that's what is it, 3,000 gold? It's it takes 3 items that are relatively easy to find. And you craft those and you will level up so quickly. It is insane. Because that one potion, it's kind of busted, admittedly, that you're able to get 3 common ingredients, put those together at any level and get so much XP. You know, compared to just like a healing potion or whatever. A healing potion's worth like, what, like 60 or something? And this water breathing potion's worth 3,000. You know, even more as you level up alchemy more. But my point is, those skills are based upon how much the value of the item you're creating. Enchanting isn't like that. Enchanting is about, I'm pretty sure it just comes down to the fact, did you craft an item or not? So you can enchant an iron dagger with the weakest enchantment, with the weakest soul gem, and it will give you the same amount of XP as the strongest weapon, with the strongest enchantment, at the strongest soul gem. Those give the same XP, I think. It might be a little bit more, but it's like minuscule. Probably not even there. I'm just trying to cover my bases. I'm pretty sure it's like nothing. No difference. So leveling up that skill is just, it sucks. I guess the way I imagine it is that me crafting things now would be the baseline for the cheapest item. But I would imagine getting more XP for the more expensive weapon I get. So what I'm at now is like as if I was making crafting iron daggers. But, you know, an iron dagger and a Daedric warhammer, those are worth the same in terms of enchanting, in terms of XP, specifically. They will be worth more money, so it's still, at least in my eyes, it's still worth it to, you know, make, you know, a super expensive... My thing for enchanting has been Dwarven Bow with Banish, and use a super cheap soul gem. Because Dwarven Bows I use to make, to get my smithing up. Banish, you know, you don't have to spend anything to get the Banish. That's just like a magical effect you have, and you can put that on as many items as you want. And then the soul gems, you know, you can get the cheapest soul gem from like any animal out in the wild. So, you know, I make a Dwarven Bow with Banish and, what is it, a Petty Soul Gem. That's worth like 3,000 gold. And I think I have like 172 Dwarven Bows. So I can break the economy of Skyrim. If I make all those and then start selling them to vendors. But I don't want to level up enchanting because it sucks. There's like this complicated button press of like, okay, you gotta select the item you want to enchant, go right a menu, select the enchantment you want, select the strength, go right another menu, select the gem, press craft. Then go back through the menu and do it all over again. That's like 10 button clicks, maybe? Probably more than that. All for just like a sixth of a level. And I'm only at like level 70 or something. I have so much more to go. It sucks. Leveling up enchanting sucks. I guess that just goes to show that when Skyrim's leveling system works, it works. Like leveling up one-handed in combat, like if you use swords, you're gonna level up your... Like it's not something you can really grind, leveling up your one-handed. It's just something you do. You can level up your sneak, but leveling up sneak is just something you do as you sneak around and stealth kill people. Or leveling up your speech, that's just something you do as you sell items. But some things you really have to grind, like smithing or enchanting. Or even just like if you really spec into one-handed, that's what I've done. I'm a one-handed guy. And recently I'm like, okay, I maxed one-handed. It's kind of a waste of XP if I just use one-handed weapons going forward. So I'm like, okay, I'll use two-handed. I'll use a battle axe. And I haven't done that before. So my one-handed is at 100. I'm like level 55. Well, one-handed is at 100. And my two-handed is at like 20. So I'm doing so much less damage with two-handed than my one-handed. So I'm effectively crippling myself if I decide to like swap mid-playthrough. Which, you know, it's always been a thing in these games, or at least previously, where it's like you're at character creation and you pick a specialization where you're like, okay, I'm specializing in axes and, I don't know, restoration. And leveling up the other skills will be harder, but, by God, I am an axe and a restoration guy. And Skyrim is kind of built as like this, you can do whatever you want, you can level up whatever you want. But, you can, but it's difficult. Like, if I wanted to level up destruction from, like, I'm one-handed right now, it's at 100. If I wanted to level up destruction, I would be fighting an uphill battle. It's not as free as it makes it seem. But, it still kind of is, so I guess they're technically true. Perks kind of go hand in hand with the leveling system being weird and annoying. There are some cool perks in the game, but some of them kind of suck, and it's really easy to screw yourself over. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Early on in my playthrough, I spent a point into a perk that lets you do bleeding damage with war axes in my one-handed skill. So I'm like, okay, I'll be a war axe guy. But then, I do that for a bit and everything's fine. And then I get a sword and I'm like, hold on, I like this sword. And then I learned that the sword's special, like, perk you can get, it has it do critical damage, like 20% of the time. So I'm like, hold on, that seems better than bleeding. So then what do? I have this perk point spent in war axe, bleeding damage, but then I want to use the sword. So that perk point is effectively wasted. It does nothing if I'm not using a war axe. And it's really easy to kind of, fall into that trap of wasting perk points and if you don't know what you're doing. Granted, you do get a lot, but if you put 5 points into light armor, and then you're like, holy crap, I don't like light armor anymore. Like, you're just boned. That's 5 points wasted. Now, technically, you can respec later down the line. You can spend 1 dragon soul to respec an entire tree, I think. It gives you all the points back. Which is cool, but you still have to beat, like, the final DLC. Which, maybe that's like a valid price to pay for that. I don't know. It's kind of a difficult balance. I don't know what I would suggest going forward. I'm curious to see what they would do for the next Elder Scrolls game, how they would kind of work around perks and leveling. Alright, here's the big one. The negatives of Skyrim. I'm sure this is what everybody's waiting for, to hear what I think is bad about Skyrim, because everyone has negative thoughts about Skyrim. And I have some. I've kind of sung its praises so far, but I'm not going to act like it's a perfect game. One of Skyrim's biggest problems, I think, is that it's not as open as previous games in the series. Specifically, it's like mechanically smaller in scope than other games that came before it. There's probably whole videos online where you can see people talking about the cut skills from Oblivion, Morrowind, Daggerfall, Arena. Like, specifically for me, athletics and acrobatics, those seem like such cool abilities to, like, or skills, to, like, interact with the world. So if you level up athletics, you'll move faster. And that's such a cool skill to have. Like, that's fun. That's a fun skill, and it sucks that they'd cut that out. Like, I don't think there's any skill to help you move faster in the base game. I think there's, like, a ring from one of the Creation Club things, like fishing, to let you move 15% faster. But honestly, I would spec into the athletics thing if that was something you could do in this game. Merged skills, there was a lot of that throughout Oblivion in this game. Or what were some of the cut skills? Mysticism, that's definitely one I remember people talking about, where it's like they took the spells that were in Mysticism and kind of, here's some in this tree, here's some in this, and they kind of spread it out to all the other trees. So, they cut Mysticism, but a lot of the spells from Mysticism are still in the game. They're just governed by different skills. And I guess something that's really big about this that I specifically learned after going back to play the older Elder Scrolls games, is that character creation doesn't really mean much in this game. You know, when I played Daggerfall and Morrowind, you have to put a lot of thought into the character you're creating at character creation, because it asks you so many questions about, like, okay, what type of weapon are you going to use in the game? That's a weird question to ask, like, at the beginning of a game, right? Like, if you've never played Morrowind before, and you get in and the game asks you, do you want to use an axe or a sword? I'm like, I don't know. Which of those are better in terms of the game? Like, am I going to find more swords than axes? Or like, what if I want to do archery? What's archery even like in this game? Is it fun? Yeah, I guess that's kind of my beef with, like, that type of character creation. But once you have played the game, it kind of gives you the sense of you're really specializing. You're really, like, honing in on your place in the world. In Skyrim, I haven't even thought about the roleplay potential for my character. Like, he doesn't specialize in anything. He's just a guy who uses magic, who uses thief stuff, who uses a one-handed sword and shield. Now he's using two-handed. Sometimes he uses archery, sometimes he uses magic, sometimes he'll conjure up people. I don't have to think about that stuff for this game. It kind of sucks that it just generalizes everything. Which leads into my next point of, the story really railroads you. It really focuses you on the fact that, like, you are a Dragonborn. You are the chosen one. Which, to be fair, older Elder Scrolls games have done. You know, Morrowind, you are the chosen one. Oblivion, I think you're the chosen one. The beginning is like the Emperor's like, I've seen you in my dreams. Daggerfall, I don't quite know if you're the chosen one or not. But at least in Morrowind and Oblivion, you are the chosen one. But it really focuses in on, like, you're not just the chosen one, you're a Dragonborn. And everyone keeps reminding you, you are the Dragonborn, and you can't ignore it. And I guess on top of that, you are encouraged to follow the main quest. Like, there's just so much, like, going on of, like, pushing you forward to, okay, so you get out of Helgen, a dragon just attacked. The person you went with, whether it's, was it Hadvar or the Stormcloak guy? I can't remember his name. You know, whoever they are, they're like, quick, you must go to Riverwood and tell of the dragon attack. And then you go to there and they're like, quick, you must go to Whiterun and tell of the dragon attack. And then you go to there and they're like, quick, you must go to the High Hrothgar to get the whatever. And you're just being shuffled around everywhere. So while you technically are free to do whatever you want, you're kind of like ignoring the game telling you what to do. Morrowind had a really good point in it where, I can't quite remember the early happenings of Morrowind, but at some point early on, there's this point where a guy's like, okay, I'm teaching you, you're my student, go out into the world, complete some quests. It gives you that point of like, okay, go explore. And Skyrim never really gives you that point. It's always like, okay, you gotta do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. Oh, you beat the game. And it doesn't really have any of those natural stopping points. And I guess, to kind of close out this section, it does have roleplay potential, but it's very narrow in that you're the Dragonborn, and you gotta do what all these characters say. Because if you are role-playing a character, and you're like, okay, I'm this guy, I can kind of ignore the fact that I'm a Dragonborn, but, you know, you get out of the Helgen and the dragon attack, and the guy's like, quick, you must go to the town and tell of the dragon attack. You can't ignore that, but you're being kind of a dick. And, like, is that something you want on your character? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to really get at, because I don't really play games. I'm not really a role player. Like, I really like Skyrim because you can be this jack of all trades. But there is something about the older games where it's like, okay, you've done these few quests, okay, take a breather. You can go do whatever, go be your own person. But in Skyrim, no, you are the Dragonborn. You will do what everyone's telling you. Yeah. So, with that little section closed off, we'll talk another negative. Bugs. Bum bum bum. Skyrim is buggy. Can you believe it? It's not the worst. I haven't ran into that many bugs, but there are some. The biggest one for me was the companion's quest line getting completely stopped. There was a point where Ayla was like, I'm trying to remember exactly. Ayla's like, okay, it's where you have to do some radiant quests, where you have to go do some random computer-generated quests just to progress the written stuff. And I do one, and I complete it, and I come back, and I can't get another one. And it's telling me to talk to her to get a new quest, but I can't. And that is like, I have to get a new quest to be able to finish the companion's quest line. So it's just stuck, and there's nothing I can do. Well, there's nothing I could do if I was on console. Thankfully, I'm on PC, so I can just open the console, type in, start new quest, whatever the next quest is supposed to be, and then just continue on my merry way. But if I was a console player, I would be boned. Like, I would just not be able to complete the companions, and eventually get that achievement at the end, or any of the story stuff, or any of the items. I would have been locked out of all of that because of a bug, and that sucks. Like, that's a big one. Like, the smaller ones I can look over, like there's one whenever you load into a map, sometimes it'll look like the low level of detail version. Like, it's the version of the map whenever you're really far away. Like, because they save on resources by rendering a lower poly version of it. But you see that low poly version of it when you're up close. Like, that's something I can look over, because it doesn't affect me playing the game. But the Companion's Quest thing, like, it stopped me from playing the game. I could not progress any further into that quest line. And only because Bethesda gave me the tool to, like, hack the game, basically, and say, like, okay, start this new quest, even though I shouldn't be able to. Yeah, it sucks that shit happens. I've been checking every now and then for quests that I'm doing on the UESP wiki. For like, okay, is this quest bugged? And so many, like, quests and just random things that say, like, this is a bug, this is fixed in the unofficial Skyrim patch. So many of them have that. I'm like, just make the shit in the base game. Update Skyrim so people can beat the Companion's quests. It seems like they really do just rely on mods to fix bugs. I hate that. Yeah. And this is... I think this is my actual biggest negative against the game. And it's not even against Skyrim. That's the worst part. This isn't even a problem with Skyrim itself. It's a problem with the Creation Club stuff. The Anniversary Edition. The Anniversary Edition is what you buy on digital stores. And if you go to Steam, or the PSN, or the Switch, you buy the Anniversary Edition. And the Anniversary Edition comes with all the Creation Club stuff that was made for Skyrim. Now, in case you don't know, Creation Club is like... kind of like paid mods for the game. People made Creation Club stuff for Bethesda. It's not like mods that existed before and were made paid. This is original stuff made for Skyrim to be charged for with real money. So it's like... I'm trying to think of examples. Like, there's horse armor, and then there's spells, and then there's quests. There's all these different things that whenever the special edition came out, they charge like... There's $5, and here's a super tiny little quest that gets you some new armor. Or here's a tiny quest that gets you new spells. Or a new weapon, or new house. All this random stuff that you can pay $5, $10 for. And eventually, they just bundled all of that into the Anniversary Edition. So if you had the Special Edition, which was the base game with all the DLC, if you had that, you could pay $20 and get all the Anniversary Edition stuff. Like, you're skipping the microtransaction stuff, and they were just... Bethesda bundled it into the game. Which, you know, is fine for people that want that. But the big problem there is that all the Creation Club stuff is just kind of assumed into the main game. Like, can you buy Skyrim without the Anniversary Edition on consoles? I know you can on Steam. Because if you install the Anniversary Edition, all that random shit of like, here's armor, here's spells, here's quests, here's a house, here's fishing, here's random encounters these random guys will come and attack you. All of that shit is just thrown into the base game. It's just wild. It's wild that they would do that to their own game. It's like they installed a mod pack into Skyrim officially. And from what I understand, it just dumps that shit on you. I think I remember reading that they kind of fixed some of it to where it's like, okay, not all of it is dumped on you. Whenever they decided to bundle it in with the base game, they did some tweaking to like the existing creations, so it kind of sprinkles it out a bit. But still, all this shit is just thrown into the game without any consideration for like what it does to Skyrim. Because Skyrim is a game. Skyrim was made in, when did it come out? 2011? I think so. Came out in 2011, and it got three DLCs: Dawnguard, Hearthfire, Dragonborn. Those 3 DLCs, and then it was left alone for like 7 years. And then the special edition comes out, and it's like, okay, here's some mods you can pay for, where like just random shit where like, here's fishing, you can add fishing to the game, or here's a quest where you can go kill a guy and get a spell to summon some creature to fight alongside you, or here's a follower. So all that stuff you could get, just, what is it, like a la carte. You get what you want, and you don't gotta get everything if you don't want to. It costs you a lot of money to get all that stuff if you wanted it. But then, the Anniversary Edition comes out, and it's literally just the kitchen sink of like everything that existed that was made for the Creation Club is dumped into the main game. And it's just unbalanced. It doesn't care about like the artistic vision of what Skyrim was at release. Like, what is Skyrim now? Like, they want you to buy the Anniversary Edition. They sell it as like, this is the super edition of Skyrim. Get this if you want everything that exists for this game in one package. For someone that doesn't know what's going on, they'd probably be confused about like, okay, there's all this shit from like, they wouldn't know that all this random stuff after release is just like assumed into the main game. Like fishing, that's a cool thing. Fishing is cool. It's cool that they added fishing to Skyrim. But it's kind of weird that it's just like added on top, like it was always a part of Skyrim. And there's, like, even if you buy the special edition, it adds some creations for free. Like, what is there? There's fishing is free, which fishing is cool. It's whatever. You can choose to interact with that or not. Like, I don't know if that's balanced well. I don't know if you get any super powerful stuff. Maybe you do. I don't know. And then there's, what is it? The Saints and Seducers? Is that right? That's like this whole quest line. It adds this new faction. And I progressed through that. And the enemies in that are scaled super difficult. Like, what is their level scaling? It's like the player character times 1.25. So they're always going to be more powerful than you. Which means it's easier to take them on early in the game. You know, if you're level 1 and you do player level 1 times 1.25, it's probably still 1. But if you're level 50 times 1.25, you know, whatever that is, they are so much more powerful than you. Now, maybe that's a thing that could be fixed with a patch, but first of all, it's not going to. Skyrim, the Anniversary Edition, it's done. They've moved on, whatever. But it just sucks that, like, all this Creation Club stuff where they have these little problems where, like, they're unbalanced. You get super powerful weapons and armor and spells that completely break the original game. Like, it's progression. It sucks. It sucks that all that stuff is just Skyrim now. Like, if you played Skyrim even just a couple years after release, like with the Legendary Edition, and you play Skyrim Anniversary Edition, it's I said it before, it's just like a mod pack of like stuff that wasn't professionally made. You know, like no shade to the creators for that stuff, but it doesn't have the polish that a Bethesda... I can't believe I'm just saying a Bethesda game has polish. Because Bethesda games are buggy as hell, and they have problems. But they have some amount of, like, assuming balance. And, you know, some custom mods out there are really well balanced, but, you know, when you have the money of Bethesda, and you can playtest as well as you can figure out problems that, you know, some random modder can't. Yeah, I think I've probably looped here, but I hate that the Anniversary Edition is just like, hey, this is Skyrim now. Fishing, all these random quests, all these spells, that's Skyrim now. What was the original game? I don't know. This is Skyrim. Like, you can't uninstall that stuff. Like, I wanted to uninstall the Saints and Seducers pack. You can't do that in-game. I was able to do it because I went into my Skyrim install and dragged the files out. But if you're on console, you can't do that. You just have to accept that this pack is a part of your game. Oh, God. I hate it so much. Yeah, I'm assuming... I don't know if Fallout 4 will ever get that same treatment, because it has Creation Club stuff as well. But if they ever do, I hope they really work that out of like, okay, this is the game, and there's like a setting in the menu where it's like... It's so weird because it has like a mod loader in the menu. The Skyrim has a thing where you can like select load orders for mods and disable and enable some. It's crazy that that isn't enabled for Creation Club stuff. I would get the Anniversary Edition if I could enable some things and disable others. But I don't want to buy the Anniversary. It's $10 right now. It's on sale. But I think the Anniversary Edition is like literally a direct downgrade from the base game. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. Okay, I'm moving on because I hate it. I do hate the Anniversary Edition, but I really like Skyrim overall. You know, I liked the world more than I expected. You know, just like the experience of playing an Elder Scrolls game. That's something I've missed out on a lot throughout the years of like, just being a Fallout person. You know, I've always played Fallout 3, New Vegas, 4. Even some of the older PC Fallouts I kind of dabbled in a little bit, you know, before Bethesda had their hand in it. But the Elder Scrolls was always that thing where it's like, yeah, they do it and it's fine, but I don't care about it. And now I think I might care about the Elder Scrolls more than Fallout. I don't know why. I think the Elder Scrolls world is just... It's just a bit more interesting to me. And I'm excited to check out the older games where I feel like that world building is probably done much better. You know, no shade to Skyrim for that. But yeah, I like the Elder Scrolls world, and I'm excited to check out more games in the series. But I still have more to play of Skyrim, so not done with it yet. And just playing Skyrim, I'm having fun. Like, I wasn't expecting to have fun. You know, I had always heard the thing about wide as an ocean, shallow as a puddle. And you hear that, and it's like, okay, there's this... I guess that... I still can't get that out of my mind, where it's like... I'm having fun, yeah. Like, I'm doing dungeons. You know, I'm hitting people with my sword. I'm getting stuff that I can sell. And I'm having fun. But... is it fulfilling? Like, is this just an empty fun? I don't know. It's probably not something worth worrying about, because, you know, once you get into the fact where it's like, okay, am I being fulfilled by this, or is it just like a surface level fun? Like, I don't think it's worth justifying that kind of thing. Like, I played Dota 2 for so many... Like, I played that for like 1,500 hours. And... oh god, I go back and forth on this. Where I put 1,500 hours into that game, but what did they have to show for that after I was done? Like, yeah, I played with friends and it was fun, but there wasn't like a story. I didn't feel fulfilled after wasting that much time playing the game. Or like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield, Where it's like if you play, like I beat Final Fantasy 16, I felt fulfilled with that. Like that was emotionally satisfying. And where Skyrim has a story like Final Fantasy 16, compared to Call of Duty, Battlefield multiplayer, Fortnite, Skyrim has a story, but that's not really why we play Skyrim. We play it just because it's fun to walk around, craft things, decorate your house, get followers, just random shit. That's why people, and there are quests to do, but the main fun in Skyrim for a lot of people is just hanging out in Skyrim. Oh yeah, I guess I wrote down the Radiant Quest stuff earlier. Well, Radiant Quests are like, it's something to do, like you're engaging with the system of the game. Like you're using the sword, you're killing bad guys, you're looting, you're selling, you're enchanting. But there's no meat on the bone. It's just like a food that isn't filling. But, a little bit of candy can be fun every now and then. It tastes good, so I guess it's good to dabble in it every now and then. Not everything you do has to be super fulfilling. Just have a little bit of shallow fun. Alright, I'll leave it at that for Skyrim. Now, going forward, what are my hopes for the Elder Scrolls... I'm sorry, Skyrim 2. What are my hopes for Skyrim 2? Something I really liked about Fallout 4, and that I hope to see in Skyrim 2, is I want to see more fleshed out building. I really liked building settlements in Fallout 4. Hearthfire is kind of cool in this game where you get to build your own house. But once you put in all the materials and all of that, you don't get to decide what is placed where. It's like the level designers placed everything inside the house. Like chest goes here, dresser goes here. And you just go to a craft station and craft a chest. And when you craft that chest, it's like, okay, this is chest number 5, and it belongs right here. You don't get to place the chests anywhere. And I would really like to be able to do that in Skyrim 2. I think that'd be so cool to, build out my own storage room. Build out my own armory and my own alchemy room. Rather than just go with the room that the developers built for me. I think Starfield is leaning into that a little bit, so hopefully we see some more of that building stuff in Elder Scrolls 6. Skyrim 2, sorry. I want a more varied landscape. Skyrim is nice. It's definitely a beautiful environment, but it gets kind of samey just seeing these Nordic mountains everywhere. I'm trying to think of a game that has good variety. Well, I guess it's hard because, you want a world to feel realistic. Like, you can't have a super hot volcano over here, and then there was a beach here, and there's a desert there, and then there's a green plains, and there's super high mountains and super low valleys. It's really hard to, merge those into one world that feels cohesive. And Skyrim tries to do that, it's got its mountains, it's got its valleys, it's got its little green plains. But I want more variety. And hopefully they can find a way to kind of cram more of that into a world for Skyrim 2. What's the region the Elder Scrolls 6 is supposed to take place in? Is it Hammerfell? Let me look it up. Yeah, it seems like it's supposed to take place in Hammerfell. I don't know anything about that region. I don't know if it's in the Elder Scrolls Online. I'd be curious to take a peek in that game and just kind of see what the region's supposed to look like. I guess they showed it off from the trailer. Yeah, look, it was very green and mountainous. Brown mountains. That looked really cool. If that environment is what I could expect from the Elder Scrolls 6, I'm excited, but I hope they work in some more varied stuff. I'd like to see Skyrim, bigger. Because Skyrim it's a big game. It's bigger than Oblivion and all that, but Skyrim is kind of small. You can walk from, from Whiterun to Riverwood in, really short time. Daggerfall kind of spoiled me in that, the scale is immense. It is almost incomprehensibly big. Like, obviously, they're not going to do anything like that, but something bigger scale where, it takes you a minute to get from one place to another. I'd like to see that. And finally, I just want some more mechanical depth. I don't think Skyrim is as shallow as some people say, but after dabbling in Daggerfall and Morrowind, I want some more depth back. I think there's a lot they've cut over the years, a lot they've merged into existing skills, or maybe just, add more to the current skills. Let me conjure more things. But then again, like, how much can you do with restoration as a tree? Like, you heal yourself, you heal allies, you deal damage to undead. That's something. But there's not much else more than that. So I guess they're kind of limited in, like, sheer numbers of, like, ideas. I guess going back to, like, the idea of character creation, let me specialize more. Don't let me become a jack of all trades. As much as I would probably hate playing a game like that, I think it's smarter to, like, let the player focus in. Let the player specialize in thieving. Don't let a player become good at everything. Yeah, I think that's kind of the problem Skyrim has, that a lot of people are kind of take issue with, like Elder Scrolls fans take issue with, is that it lets you become good at everything. Like in Skyrim, you can play that game for God knows how long, and you'll get 100 in every skill. And I'm sure you could play long enough to get all the perks for every skill tree. It would take you damn near forever, but I wish Skyrim forced me to better think of who I am as a character. I guess that's the way I said that. Think of who I am as a character. That's how I always think about these games. Like the character I made in Skyrim, Sudvir, he's a Nord guy. I don't know anything about him. I don't know his backstory. I don't know his desires. I don't know anything about him. He's just me. He's just me in this world, and I play him as I would. But I would hope the Elder Scrolls 6 kind of forces me to think like, okay, I made this character. Who are they? What are their goals? What do they specialize in? Because not like in real life, you can't specialize in everything. You have to pick your little niche. And I want one of these games to really force me to do that. Yeah. Well, is there anything else to mention? I think that's it. I'm excited for the Elder Scrolls 6. I really hope that turns out well. Very excited for it. Excited for Starfield. I bet that'll show off some of the stuff that, give off a little bit of hints of what they're going to do for the Elder Scrolls 6. Like, what was it? They dabbled in dialogue for Fallout 4. Like, it was really compacted. It was like 2-word answers. And then in Fallout 76, they gave you more dialogue options. And I think they're giving you like full sentences in Starfield, maybe? I don't actually remember, but yeah, I hope they don't continue the trend of dumbing down the series for the Elder Scrolls 6. But, outside of that, I really do like Skyrim. I've put like 75 hours into my character and I'm still having fun. I still have that stuff in the back of my mind where it's like, wide as an ocean, shallow as a puddle. And I'm still enjoying it. So yeah, I'll probably still play for a bit more, make a video or two on it. And, once I'm done with this in a month or two, I will close that chapter of my life, and then I'll come back later, and then I'll do the thing everybody does. I will go super into modding. I'll add every mod under the sun. Maybe I'll play the Anniversary Edition. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds for me in Skyrim? So yeah, that's it. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for future videos, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching. I am gonna go play some Skyrim now. See you next time.